The Flea by John Donne. Donne's poem here is a brilliant and a clever, tongue-in-cheek development of argument. Again, we have a seduction poem, if you like, a poem where he is trying to overcome the coyness, the reluctance of a mistress to walk with him, and in this sense is a direct comparison with Andrew Marvell's to his coy mistress, his reluctant mistress, and he's trying to draw her into physical, to argue into physical union with himself. And the whole of the three stanzas develop an argument. And quite cleverly in the third stanza, he seems to have lost the argument, and then very cleverly, deliberately turns that to his final clinching point. So what he does, his essential idea is an idea, an imaginative idea, what is often called a conceit, an elaborate idea which he takes and develops and argues around. And there's a cleverness and there's an Elizabethan wit about this. And the idea of taking ideas that would not really be seemingly linked to the original object, and the cleverness of being able to turn it around and argue it. Linked to the idea, of course, that John Donne did have legal training, so there was something in this ability to argue the case. It's interesting to note, of course, as well, that he was a contemporary of Shakespeare, 8 years his junior, but it's hard to think that John Donne might not have actually gone along to see a Shakespeare play. It's whether they would have ever met or not, I don't know. But it's just important to realise these writers were around at the same time, although John Donne was certainly not writing his poems initially or expressly for public consumption. But let's have a look at this a little bit then. So he takes the idea that the essential conceit is a flea, and because this flea is found and has bitten them both, their blood is mingled in the flea, and so they have a union. Their blood, I mean, what can be more symbolic of a true union of two human beings than their blood be mingled? But of course, the rather frankly ridiculous idea that their blood is mingled in the flea is one that he seeks to explore. So notice, take to the observation, let's notice this point. Mark but this flea, and mark in this how little that which thou deniest me is. His point is that actually you're denying me my way with you, our chance to share your bed, and how little, how insignificant is what it is you're denying me. How small a step it would be to go along with my argument and my desires. So here's the flea, it sucked me first and now sucks thee, and in this flea our two bloods mingled be. And our blood is mingled. But what has happened here is not a sin. It's not a shame, it's not a loss of virginity, it's not a loss of maidenhead. Indeed, this happened before it had time to woo. It didn't stand on ceremony, it just mingled our blood. And pampered swells with one blood made of two. And this, alas, is more than we would do. Notice the little aside, alas, in parenthesis, this alas is more than we would do. Obviously showing his desire. And then the second stanza moves on to the fact that having noticed the flea, the beloved one is perhaps going to kill it, to press it out of existence. Oh, stay! Stop, don't do it. 3 lives in one flea spare. And here we get the first of some echoing, really, of religious language. I want to come to this in a moment. But 3 lives in one, obviously we get sort of almost Trinity speak here. 3 lives in one flea spare, where we almost, yea, more than married are, because of our blood union. This flea is you and I, and in this our marriage bed and marriage temple is. And whatever our families, our parents, grudge, you might resist me, we've been met, and we're together in these black walls of the flea, the living walls of jet. And careful, don't kill the flea. Though use make you apt to kill me, let not to that self-murder added be. Don't kill me and you, and indeed sacrilege, 3 sins in killing 3, sort of destroying something that is holy, our marriage bed. And then the third stanza takes the humour a little further, because it imagines the the beloved one killing the flea. Cruel and sudden, hast thou since purpled thy nail in blood of innocence? You purpled your nail. You've actually squashed the flea between finger and thumb, or pressed it down, you've killed it. And how innocent is this flea? Wherein could this flea guilty be, except in that drop which it sucked from thee? I'll acknowledge that. Yeah, at this point he's almost ready to cleverly give in the argument. Yet thou triumphst, and sayest that thou findst not thyself nor me the weaker now. See, you're saying killing this flea has not made any difference, and that clinches an argument for him. 'Tis true then, learn how false fears be. Just so much honour when thou yieldest to me will waste as this flea's death took life from thee. So just as much as this flea did not harm you in what it did, then just in the same way, there's no honour going to be lost. Just so much honour will be wasted as was in the death of this flea, nothing. So why not then follow my desires and do what I ask you? All right, so that's the general theme and development of ideas. Let's look at some of the language. Notice the direct voice, first of all. We have a drama set out here. We have his addressing his lady. There's a direct voice and a direct address. It starts with mark, twice in the first line. Notice, mark but this flea, and mark in this. Notice it's a direct address, use of the word thou. So there's a drama, and indeed the way that the flea is and the whole notion of flea is exaggerated. You've got sort of almost a melodrama that's set out for us here. Second thing, notice the religious language, which I mentioned a little while ago. All the way through, you get this idea that this proposal, that their being together, is something special and holy and sacred. There's talk about religion and sin in that first stanza. This cannot be said a sin or shame. There's nothing there. And then in the second stanza, the whole idea of the Trinity, 3 lives in one flea. We have the word in line 15. We have the word cloistered. We are met and cloistered in these living walls of jet. Cloisters are like sort of holy monastery buildings. It's like we are. There's a sacredness about what we're doing. He speaks about the in line 13 about the marriage temple. Again, religious imagery. And indeed, in the final line of that second stanza, sacrilege. There will be 3 sins in killing 3: murder, self-murder, and the sin of desecrating marriage, of making unholy something that is supposed to be holy. So you have this sort of religious language which is arguing in favour, in support of his whole position. He's elevating his argument here and supporting it by couching it in religious language. What we have here is something that is holy. Of course, the fact that he's talking about blood inside a flea adds to the humour and the ridiculous nature and the conceit of this whole argument. But that religious language is there. I think that's very important. Just something else to say about language. In that final stanza, beautiful picture, line 20. Hast thou since purpled thy nail? Purpled thy nail. What he's saying, in effect, is having killed this flea, you've got blood on your hands. And this is dramatic. But look at the very small scale of it. You've purpled your nail. Just using purpled. That little purple stain from the flea. As if that's a sort of heinous crime that's been committed. A delightful miniaturizing there of this violent deed. And so very, very cleverly put together. The whole structure is an argument. Mentioned Donne's legal training. You have in line 5 and 6, thou knowest that this cannot be said a sin. There is that enjambement, that run-on to perhaps give emphasis to the word sin. What this is not. This isn't a sin. This isn't something that's in any way breaks moral or religious code. Surely this is not. Notice, of course, we have the 3-part argument in Andrew Marvell's poem as well, which is trying to do a similar kind of thing. You have this sort of legal, almost argument that's presented. And we got the clever turn in the last stanza. It almost leads into, yep, okay, you're right, look, killing this flea, despite all I've said, has actually made no difference whatsoever. Precisely. You come to bed with me, and that's going to make no difference whatsoever. It will neither diminish you, it will neither be sinful or sacrilegious. There's only something special to be gained by our coming together.